This video, I'm going to be sharing with you the truth on manifestation with understanding higher dimensions. I'm going to show you the truth about who we are at a greater level and how we can begin to align to who we really are. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the truth about the higher dimensions and understanding how this correlates with that of manifestation or the law of attraction process. Now, this has to do with almost a grander picture as to why things are the way they are and also who we are at a greater level. Now, I believe that we are immortal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. This is something that you can read in a lot of literature. This is something that you can meditate on yourself. This is something you can find out for yourself if you have a spiritual awakening. That is something that happened to me. And a lot of people that are watching this channel, my guess is that you've also been through something very similar when it comes to a spiritual awakening or just knowing that there's more to life than that of which we are experiencing. Now, I've been talking recently on this channel about an idea of something I'm going to be sharing a little bit more on as time goes on because, one, I enjoy talking about it. Two, I think it's a new perspective that allows us to really expand our consciousness, to see things in a completely new way. Now, this actually has to do with a quote from Elon Musk, and it is a quote where he says that he believes that the chances that this reality that we experience, that this reality is the baseline reality, he says that he believes that the chances of that being the true reality is a fraction of a percentage, which means that it is highly probable that we live in a form of a simulation. Now, this is a very empowering idea because think about it. When we play video games, we are playing a character and we are doing certain things with the character, and there's a certain experience there where we can kind of in a way put ourselves into a different position, into a different mindset. Now, we may at a deeper level, we know that that is a game, yet we play it and we have fun with the process. And even some people that play the game, they get mad or frustrated if it's not going the way that they want. Now, in the same way with what we have with virtual reality, with VR, we can already have the type of helmet that you put on to where your brain really doesn't know the difference between what it is seen and what is actually true. It will actually feel the stress of what's ever happening or the happiness of whatever is happening because the brain doesn't know the difference. Now, I actually had my own experience of this. I've shared it before in a couple of videos, but my experience was that I wore a VR headset when my cousin came and we were at my dad's house and we were having like a family thing, and we put on the PS3 and it was like this game thing, and you put it on and you're looking around and you actually feel like you are underwater. This particular game was you were underwater, you were in like the shaft, you were descending down into the ocean, you were seeing fish swim by, you were seeing coral, all this really cool stuff, and when your head moved, so did the picture you were seeing. And what happens is eventually there's this shark that comes by, and this shark that comes by kind of goes close to the cage, you get a little bit scared, and then it kind of disappears behind you into like a dark abyss. And then all of a sudden you look back a couple like seconds later and it comes fast at you and then bites into the cage, takes a chunk out of it. Then you're vulnerable and you're open to this shark where you can't see where it is, and you're teetering and looking over and you see back down into the dark abyss going all the way down, and it kind of scares you. You almost feel like you actually kind of have like this heights thing even though you're underwater. But nonetheless, it made me realize that even though I knew it was a game, it felt very real. And it was hard to know the difference. I almost just surrendered to it. I would have thought that I was there. I know that that was the case. Now, this is the first part of us being able to learn about virtual reality. We're like the very tippy beginning. We barely have even start with the progression of technology with virtual reality, and yet we already can't tell the difference between what we imagine and what we are experiencing. Now, my guess is that in 5 or 10 years, give or take maybe 10 years, I think it'll be sooner than we think though, we will have the ability to be wearing something that we can't tell the difference between what is real and what is not real. Now, from a higher dimensional state of consciousness, what I believe we have done is we have come into this life, forgotten that we are immortal spiritual beings, because one of the purposes of life is us to remember who we are. It's us to remember that that is who we are. It's one of the facets of the life experience. And then when we remember who we are, it's a very empowering time, because then we have a little bit more flexibility. We become aware that we are immortal spiritual beings living temporary human experiences. We have these avatars called our physical body that we perceive through the five senses. And the five senses that we perceive through are just interpreters of vibration. That's what we are doing. We are literally interpreting vibration. We can see, touch, feel, taste, hear. All of these things are interpretations of vibration. But at a fundamental level, we are much more than even that of just our senses. And maybe in this life, we become identified with painful situations. And sometimes those painful situations allow us to create pressure so that then we come out and we understand things at a deeper level. That's when a lot of people have spiritual awakenings. I went through a lot of pain growing up, and one of the reasons that could have been is because that led to me having a spiritual awakening. Now, when I say all of this stuff, let me talk a little bit about who we are at a greater level, because then it helps us understand how this all fits together. At a greater level, I believe that we exist in a higher dimensional state of consciousness. A higher dimensional state of consciousness where we feel unconditional love. This could be considered a higher dimension. And in this place, we are actually, this is the cool idea, we're actually there right now dreaming that this is who we are. And when we go to bed at night, I believe we are waking up as that version of us. And we think that when we go to bed at night, we are going to sleep, but in actuality, we are asleep right now, dreaming that we are here. It's just that we have a continuation, time-space reality. We have such a fluid dream in this life. We could say life is a dream, just like life is a game. And we could say that life is a dream and that it feels very real. And it's a consistent dream, so then it feels even more real. But what if it is actually just a dream that we are experiencing that can still have fluidity, can still have a time-space linear reality, because this dimension has time and space, but in higher dimensional states of consciousness, we are unconditional love and bliss, and when we want to create something, it happens instantaneously. There is no gap between thought, form, and experience. Now, there's a gap here because of the dimension we live in. There's a gap of experience. So I think of something I want, and then if I create resistance, I block it. But if I can let it go, then it's more likely to come into fruition. This is a game that we experience of how we can focus, not be attached to the outcome. Trust that this higher self, this higher realm of consciousness can flow through us, and that then we can experience what we want in a very powerful way. And what if that is part of the experience of life? Is the gap that we experience, that's what makes it beautiful, because we can learn more in the gap. Imagine you're in the higher dimensions, things happen instantaneously. Of course, it's still fun, but it's a different perspective. There's more lessons to be learned when things are slowed down. So we experience 70 to 100 years of experience, could be longer by the time we get older. And we experience this, and we can learn so much compared to what we learn in different states of consciousness. And one of the experiences in our life now is becoming aware that we are unconditional love. That everything we experience that is negative is us showing us what is not us. It is showing us a different facet that we can observe and then let go. We can become masters of emotion, which is one of the purposes, I believe, of life as well. Is becoming masters of our emotion, understanding emotion at a deeper level. That may make this dimension a little bit hard because there's a lot of negative emotion, but there's also the potential for a lot of positive emotion, and that adventure of going from a pressure of negative emotion then into transcending levels of consciousness, to going back to who we are, to remembering who we are at a greater level. I believe that when we think of something at a higher dimensional state of consciousness, it already exists. We could also look at this and look at parallel realities. There's an infinite number of parallel realities that exist. So anytime you think of what you want, it already exists. You've already realized it at a higher level state of consciousness. The key is catching up that of your ego, that of your avatar in this light with that. And the way that you do that is by remaining in the state of consciousness that you prefer. Remaining in that trust of the process. Because the moment something happens and we gave it a negative meaning, we say, oh, this isn't part of the blueprint, is the moment we take ourselves out of the state of being that gets us to that realization of that manifestation. However, everything exists here and now. Because when we think of it, we may not physically see it, but the thought form exists the moment we think about it. You may know someone like Abraham Hicks, who says the moment you think about it, the moment it already exists. This could be because at a higher level of non-physical energy, of consciousness, it already does exist. It is just about us embodying the vibration of it now, which means feeling the gratitude for it now, not be remaining attached to the outcome, because if you had that thing, you wouldn't be feeling resistance. And as you let go of resistance, you become more of who you naturally are, and you're more likely to experience that at a greater level. Now, here's the thing. I believe that at a greater level, every night, we go to bed, we wake up at a higher level of consciousness. That we don't remember this in the morning because maybe it's not relevant. Imagine you remembered that you feel unconditional love and bliss when you go to bed at night. Imagine that you remember that things happen instantaneously and that you have and are surrounded by so much love in the higher dimensions because that's who you naturally are. But then you come here and you remember this, and then you might not want to be here. This is why so many people have what are called NDEs, near-death experiences, and they come back and they are completely changed. They realize that they are so much more than they priorly thought they were. They realize that a lot of times they don't want to come back because they feel so much love and bliss, but they have to come back because there's something still to be learned. At a certain level, they chose to come back even though they might not be consciously aware of it. But I know people that have had NDEs, near-death experiences, and it forever changed them. Not just that, a lot of them came back and completely they put a new priority to their life. And what they did is then they saw things in a completely new way. And that shows that there is a good possibility that that is who we naturally are. Now, an NDE is something that kind of shocks us into that kind of experience. However, when we go to bed at night, we are also awake in this levels of consciousness. Our brain will give us certain symbols, which we call dreams, because that's what the brain can do, is it can give us things that we've already understand in our current life, ways of digesting information. So we may have some weird dream where we do something and we have no idea of what this could mean, but nonetheless, the information does get digested at a certain level, maybe even a subconscious level. But maybe it's the only way that our brain or our dreams can come to us is through the symbols in our dreams. But in the higher dimensions, I believe it is so far beyond what we can even imagine that we just get these little glimpses. But at a fundamental level, we are that unconditional love, that higher state of consciousness, and we are there right now in a deep sleep, dreaming that this is who we are. I'm dreaming that I'm Aaron Doughty, that I make videos on YouTube, that I get up every day, take a cold shower, and I film videos. That's who I am. But that's a part of who I am. That's part of the avatar, the experience I'm having through these five senses where I can taste, hear, smell, touch, and all of the senses can interpret vibration. That's what I'm experiencing, but I'm also aware that I am a greater connection to consciousness. A higher dimensional state of consciousness is who I really am, and a higher state of consciousness is who you really are. You are unconditional love and bliss. That is who you are. The only time you won't be in that is when you are identifying with less than that, with a story that maybe doesn't serve, with a focus on how is things going to happen, are things going to happen. All of these different perspectives may hold us back. But at the fundamental core, you are that unconditional love. That is who you are. And at the end of this life, I believe that I will, quote unquote, die, but wake up in a higher state of consciousness, and I will wake up and then say, wow, that was a crazy dream. That was a dream of experience. I learned so much, but nonetheless, it was a dream. And just like we wake up every morning, we go, wow, that was a crazy dream. I think the joke's on us because we're dreaming right now. This may have some fluidity. This may have some type of consistency with time and space, so we think, oh, this is so real, but it is an experience that feels real. And at the fundamental level, I believe that you are an immortal spiritual being living a temporary human experience. The more that you tap into this, the more that you experience it, of you being who you naturally are. And I believe that one of the purposes of life is to remember this. Now, something that I've done is I've created a guided meditation that will show you how to raise your vibration so that you remember this part of yourself and so that you create from a much higher paradigm. This is what raised my vibrational set point from on a scale of 1 to 10 to about a 3 to a 5 to about a 7 or an 8. And I think if you listen to it for 21 days, it'll absolutely transform your life. It's absolutely free. It's in the top of the description box below. Also, I'll be doing more live Q&As on Instagram. So if you want to ask me questions, you want to be part of live meditations, follow me on Instagram as well. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little notification gear. The way that YouTube does things now is you actually have to hit that button in order to see the daily vids. I got a lot more coming. And other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.